Good day, and welcome to another edition of Inside City Hall. My name is Frank Boyles. I'm the Prior Lake City Manager. We have a special guest today who we want to talk to and learn more about, and it's our new mayor, comparatively new mayor, Kirt Briggs. Kirt, welcome to the program.
Frank, thank you so much for having me.
May I call you Kirt?
Please, please.
Tell us a little bit about your background. I know that through the campaign you kind of told the story of Kirt Briggs, but a lot of people haven't heard it, and could you kind of relay that to them?
Sure, Frank. So actually my background prior to being mayor was I had a little better than a 30-year career in the healthcare industry. Mm-hmm. I was in the pharmaceutical industry for about 16 years, departed that industry and was then a stay-at-home dad for 2 years, and it was really at that time came to meet Prior Lake. Mm-hmm. As a father of two young boys. I then joined the medical device industry and had a 12-year career with medical devices prior to retiring in 2014. Mm-hmm. So that's my professional background.
Gotcha. And you are, now you say you're retired, but I know that you periodically do some business. Is that
Indeed.
Right?
Still
not to say that being mayor isn't business.
Exactly.
It's business,
our primary focus is as a representative and focused on the city of Prior Lake. Mm-hmm. But I maintain connections into the healthcare industry and actively consult in the medical device field.
Gotcha. Okay, and you said in your 2 years as a stay-at-home dad kind of got you plugged into the community. Can you expand on that?
Oh, I'd be happy to. We, as a family, relocated a number of times. We were up and down the West Coast. Mm-hmm. My wife and I are originally from California, Northern California. And we were relocating through our career about every 3 to 4 years. So we came, when we arrived in Minnesota, it was in 1995, mm-hmm. and departed the pharmaceutical role in 1998. That's when I became aware of Prior Lake. So we were living to the north, southwest Minneapolis.
I can say
it. Indeed, we were in Edina.
Oh.
We were in Edina, and I was hopeful to find that cabin opportunity for the family. And that's what took our search to here, Prior Lake. So we acquired a cabin on Prior Lake in 1999, and that became really the place for creating family memories, mm-hmm. Which is how I came to learn of the lake at first, and then the city itself. Mm-hmm. So we are members of the Prior Lake community now, going on 18 years.
Wow. And you got the two boys, and they're active in various sports.
Two boys. We are now actually we are empty nesters.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Frank. I have one son, Matthew, who is out in San Francisco, mm-hmm.
working
for a health beverage company, mm-hmm.
And
my younger son, a graduate of University of Wisconsin in Madison, is now working downtown Minneapolis. With a large firm. So we have Cole in town and Matt out on the West Coast, again, where Heidi and I grew up.
Cool. And tell us a little bit about Heidi, your wife.
Heidi, my wife, wife of now 30 plus years, 31 years. Thank you. Works outside the home, inside the home and outside the home. Mm-hmm. She's a representative in the healthcare industry.
Wow.
Which is actually how
is
we
that
came.
How you met?
That is how we met. No, we met in a doctor's office many moons ago with the aquariums and the People magazines all around us.
Oh, fascinating. And I wanted to take that one other step, and it eludes me right now. We'll come back to it, though. But, okay, so you became familiar with the community. Mm-hmm. And somewhere, somehow along the line, you decided, you know what? I'm going to run for office, and I'm not going to run for just any office. I'm going to run for mayor.
Indeed, Frank, and that is something. First, I fell in love with the city. Right, although we were living in Edina, mm-hmm. I had said to my wife when we purchased the cabin, "This will be our This is where we will be."
Wow!
And she was very supportive. So we knew that Prior Lake was going to be home. So that was the first piece. The second item for me, and this gets into the why run, was after a 30-year professional career, it was time for me to focus on serving. And I could think of no better place to serve than in the city in which you live. So to me, it was time to shift from the have-to side of life to the choose-to side of life. And the choose-to, for me, was to come forward and serve a community. And the third item for me, in terms of the mayor piece, was I thought it was very important, especially as we look at the political environment that we have come through. There really is an absence of what I would call civility in the way we disagree with each other. I think it's really important that when you have a difference of opinion with another individual, that you need to embrace that difference, not confront it, and to most specifically embrace the difference of opinion personally.
In person.
One of the things that I came to learn, and I would recognize Chair Mike Beard of the Commissioner, Mike Beard, said, in Shakopee, when we disagree, what we do is we go down to Wampak's, we buy ourselves a donut, we get a cup of coffee, and we talk about it. And I said, Mike, one of the things I've seen in Prior Lake is when we disagree with somebody, we'll fire off a letter to the Prior Lake American, and then we'll wait a week for a response. And I said, we could certainly take a chapter out of your book. And so that was the piece. Why run? Well, for me it is, I want to certainly engage and embrace differences of opinion, because I know now that quite often we have far more in common, those of us that reside in the city of Prior Lake, than we have differences. And indeed, that's been my experience for the 6 months as mayor.
Gotcha. Now, you, together with the other new council members, spent an enormous amount of time in orientation. I remember hours and hours and hours going
Sorry
from
about
department.
that.
No, it's great. Going from department to department to department. And then you'd always often follow up with additional questions. Wait a minute, I'm not sure I understood that. I think a number of you said it was like drinking water from a fire hose. Along that line, is there anything that surprises you that, okay, so you're an outsider, you get elected, now you're an insider. Is there any difference in perspective on what the mayor does before and during now?
Yes, short answer, but I want to back up. One of the things that, for me, I've attempted to do, Frank, is I ran for office with a lot of perceptions. Many of those perceptions did not have a fact base associated with them. So that extensive orientation and all those follow-up questions is I have done all that I can do to replace perceptions with experiences. So I've wanted to learn more, understand, get the full range of input, and to make them first-person experiences. And that, to me, means leaning into and getting out in front of anything. And so I'm so appreciative what the staff invested in us as a new council through November and December of last year, and also as it's been bringing certainly this new mayor up to speed with lots of things. So surprises for me, I guess the two biggest ones, I'm going to speak to awareness now to all that the city staff touches and the volume of communication that takes place, as well as the complexity of the issues that the city is faced with on a daily basis. My cell phone number is on all of my cards, and I've received many phone calls on a host of issues, from what one might argue rather simplistic up to the highly complex. Well, to see that the city staff involvement across that range of activities was very surprising to me. So that's one of the things I learned as it related to the city. The complexity is also the depth. The other thing I learned, or have learned, is quite honestly that I was unaware of, is how much volunteerism there is in our community. Having been an outsider, you don't have visibility into all of the volunteer organizations and volunteer hours that are invested. The most notable and most recent would be Music Fest, and certainly Rotary and the Chamber put on. The Rotary Club hosts a wonderful event, and the Chamber with Lakefront Days in concert with the city. There is a ton of volunteer time that is put into the city that is so wonderful to see, and I was completely and totally unaware of it. And so that to me are the two big surprises.
Fascinating, fascinating. You talk to a lot of people. I mean, you talk to people in various, holding various positions, public, private, otherwise. Joe and Sally Q Public, whether it's just to talk or it's a complaint-based or an inquiry-based. What do you find that does for you as mayor?
Well, to me, the key part of any of those conversations is learning and also establishing trust. There is a genuine interest on the part of all to do better and to improve. So as I have these one-on-one meetings, first off, I love them. I enjoy them. I've never consumed as much coffee. I can be found between Artisan, the Caribou Lunds Byerly's, having coffee on a regular basis. I sincerely love meeting with the folk, with residents, businesses, to discuss topical issues that impact our community. But also the learning. What comes, it truly helps push me further. So I rely heavily on the input to help drive me. So it's really fuel. Meeting with folks is fuel for me to continue to push for the city.
I've noted that you seek out previous leaders, previous mayors, for that matter. What has that done for you? How has that helped you to become up to speed in a fairly short period of time? Right?
Our past mayors, to me, are an enormous resource that should be tapped. The experiences that they have had, the perspectives that they can bring, and it's not simply the historical perspective, Frank, as I meet with, chat with the former mayors, and as I've learned, they are all mayors, so I would never refer to any of the past mayors as former. Indeed, they are mayors. They want to share. They want to share. They also, to a person, have said, we would like to give you, Kirt, the space that we've done our time. Right. And that's been something, quite honestly, Frank, that I've tried to actually pull them at times into situations because the wisdom that they have had, and especially as they've allowed possibly time to temper it and or to pull out that key point, to me it's been fascinating to hear their perspectives, and at the same time I've benefited from some of the guidance that they provided me.
I know you asked them a lot of questions. It's almost like an interrogation, but in the most positive sense of the word. Just prior to this meeting, we talked a little bit about a major issue in our community, and you sought their historic perspective on these things.
Oh, and certainly, and hopefully it's not too interrogative or
interrogation. I'm sorry, and yet,
but to me, to be on point, I look at the business leaders in our community. I look at the mayors in our community, and to me, each provide an important perspective, not to mute the broader perspective, but as we move our city forward on key issues that I know we're going to address here, 21 and 13 in our downtown, to me, it's essential for the council to have that input of the business leaders in the downtown area, the residents in the downtown area, but also to gather the broader perspective of the entire, there are 26,000 residents here in Prior Lake, and it is essential that as we, as I've said, do surgery on the face of our downtown at 21 and 13, we leave no scars, that we need to be very intentional to serve the needs of our community, but also to serve our broader neighbors and our county in assuring that that network of roads meets the needs of all. And the only way you're going to get there, I believe, is if you tap multiple perspectives, listen, first listen to understand, then seek to be understood. So
sure.
We're doing a lot of understanding here.
Yeah, no. It sounds like a great way to start. Let's talk a little bit about the city council. So you've got yourself and 4 city council members. As mayor, you have some responsibilities that are uniquely yours, but then you share all the responsibilities that the other folks have as well as policymakers. Any issues come up with respect to operating with the city council, having to be able to count to 3, or in some cases
it's 4? Yeah, 4 as we did last evening. Like last night. Well, first, that's been part of my learning, Frank. As I would share with all that are watching, probably the biggest learning for me has been understanding Robert's rules. And first responsibility of the mayor is to run a good meeting. And by running a good meeting, that is to make sure that all are heard, that there is fair balance in the perspectives. That's an area that I continue to grow. And I am fortunate that the council has been very patient with this mayor as he attempts to be a better leader of the meeting itself. So on the council, I've really enjoyed seeing I'm going to call it the growth of the council. There are 3 new council members. Councilmember Braid, Councilmember Burkhart, and myself are the 3 new members of the council. We have excellent experience and solid leadership in Councilmember Thompson and Councilmember McGuire, and both of them have been wonderful mentors, I would say, for the 3 of us that have come on board. And to me, that's been nothing but a sincere joy. One of the things that we've done as a council, Frank, is we have agenda reviews prior to our council meetings, oftentimes with one other council member. And it's been an opportunity for us to learn from each other individually, and at the same time do a better job preparing for the issues that will be facing us in the council meeting. Right. So that's also been something that I believe is newer for us as a council, and I think it's helped us to understand perspective, and be able to constructively debate, disagree, and discuss issues that come in front of us. So I've really enjoyed the opportunity to get to work with my 4 council colleagues as well as city staff and yourself.
Sure. From a city staff perspective, of course, it helps having these agenda meetings, not to try and convince you what you should or shouldn't do. That's your decisions as individuals and as a group, but more to hear the questions that you're going to ask later on that day, so our jaws don't drop and there's sudden silence right after you ask a question we never anticipated. I think that serves the public well. Do you?
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more, Frank. The days of when it takes me back to one of the 3 reasons that I stepped forward as mayor, and that is I think we need to have a more civil discourse. I think we have to be predictable in our actions. And what predictable means is preparing all of us to be more successful, preparing council to be more successful in council meetings, preparing staff to be more successful in council meetings. And part of that is no gotchas. Right. Let's dispense with the question that's unanticipated. That's not to say that questions won't arise in the course of a conversation that we would like to have addressed as council members. But by the same token, the most important thing for the council, and I would say all of us, to establish is a trusting working relationship with each other that relies on predictability, and that the spirit of our intent be made known to each other, which by and large is, let's move ourselves in a positive direction.
Sure. One of the things I've noted with the agenda reviews is you have intentionally said, look, it shouldn't be the same 2-2-1 each time. We should blend with each other. And your rationale for that
well,
approach?
To me, one of my adages is that if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it's said to be going well, you're said to be in a groove. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again and it's going poorly, you're said to be in a rut. So often
they seem like they sound like both.
So to me, the aspect of whether you're in a groove or a rut, so often it takes others to tell you which you're in.
Yeah.
But the aspect of mixing things up is vitally important that we seek differences in opinion amongst ourselves versus like-mindedness. There is another adage, which is if two minds always think alike, one of them is not needed. It's merely duplicative. So I have felt that mixing up the agenda reviews and seeking different inputs prepares us better and gives us a broader look at something versus tunnel visioning in on a perspective that may not have all things considered.
The hope is to guard against groupthink?
Oh,
is that
guard against groupthink, insulate or vaccinate against also not just groupthink, but creating factions.
Good point.
Right.
Same two people meet again and
right,
again
right,
and again.
The polarity must be guarded against or vaccinated against, lest you find yourself with a divided perspective where listening breaks down and then understanding breaks down.
Sure. One of the things this council did that hadn't been done for many, many years here is you conducted a retreat. Can you tell us a little bit about the retreat and maybe your rationale for doing it? And I appreciate it. The entire council had to be inclined to do it. Otherwise,
and that's one of the pieces that actually I've enjoyed is, as mayor, it's a 20% voice. Nothing happens without three eyes, and at times 4 eyes. So the retreat, having a group understand itself, absent controversy or issue. So just understanding each other to start there, to me, is the foundation upon which you can have a high-performing organization. As I think through the stages of groups, it is forming, storming, norming, performing. That carrying any group, when assembled, through those quick stages, forming, storming, to understand perspective, to then get to the norming, where you can become a high-performing council, required that we have a retreat. Required that we have a retreat, get to know each other, get to know our inner relationships with the staff members, and then to layer on top of that the priorities that we have as a city council. To have that conversation outside in an open forum, in an open meeting forum, but outside, I'm going to say, the pressure of the cameras,
the performance requirements.
The performance requirements for running the meeting was, to me, vitally important. And from my perspective, I would like to see that 3 more times, a minimum of 3 more times, for the subsequent 3 years that we're here on council.
Sure. The other thing I noted is because you had 3 new members, anyone who runs for office, I believe at least, I have my package of stuff I got here, and if we'll just if we can do this stuff, this is going to be a much better community. And so those 3 came in, yourself included, and I think there were 40 initiatives that we went through together. Was that part of this amalgamation, synthesis, let's decide if we're doing this together or not? Is that part of that process?
Well, certainly. Fortunately, 5 individuals bring with it 5 different experience sets, 5 different perspectives, 5 different priority packages. And without putting them all on the table and understanding what's important here, what's important there, because those priorities are based on what each of the council members has gleaned from our, I'll call it information, our input from the community. One of the things for this council that I've tried to, one of the words I don't care for the word compromise. To me, we make trade-off decisions in everything we do. And understanding a priority of a fellow council member and understanding it well means that we can understand what needs to be traded off to move that situation forward. And when I say trade-off, we can do anything we want to do. We just can't do everything. And that especially is true when we look at the impact that can have on the taxpayers. And that's something that I must say this council has been excellent stewards of understanding that the city doesn't have any money. It's not the city's money, it's not the city budget. Quite honestly, it is the taxpayers that entrust us with the resources and to treat those resources best. So in the retreat and in discussions with fellow council members through both that forum, work sessions, I'm comforted to know that we are making trade-off decisions all the way along that are leading us all to row in a singular direction.
Gotcha. One of your campaign platforms was to say, you know what, we have to set aside more informal opportunities to chat with one another, council members, mayor, public. And you've done that. Tell us a little bit about the town meetings and have they met your expectations? Are they evolving? Are they becoming?
So, have they met my expectations? I would say, Frank, not fully. Not fully. And here's what it is that it pushes me to do more. One of the things with the town hall format that I embrace, and I'm so appreciative that the council supports it, is it needs to be informal. It needs to be different than, say, a council setting. And in that regard, it's fully met and actually exceeded my expectations. I really love changing up the venues. I like that, we were in Club Prior, we were at Lakefront Park in the Pavilion. The next town hall, we're actually going to be here in City Hall. But to move around the city, and part of that objective is to reach deeper into our community, to go to venues where it's easier for folks to come visit.
Right.
And that's the area where I would like to do more. I sincerely would like to broaden the reach of the city council to hear from a broader segment of our community to make sure that as we make decisions, they are broadly understood and broadly that the input comes from a broad base, and no more so than, quite honestly, the project we have here at 2113 in our downtown.
Sure.
That there are multiple constituencies, as it were, again, businesses, downtown residents, but also Prior Lake residents that utilize that area, and we would like to invite more to come into our downtown. And that input coming into our various meetings be it our town halls, the 2113 town halls, or virtually, which is the other area that we've tried to emphasize, is reaching broader into our community through social media.
So communication, that's kind of was the next place I was going. You had your town hall meeting, the first one, right out of the box was on communication, because there was a belief, a perspective, we can do better. And there have been a number of initiatives, not trumpeted throughout the community, but there are a number of quiet initiatives that have been intended to improve our communication.
Undoubtedly, Frank. And again, one of the things surprises to me, quite honestly, back to your earlier question, is just how many different ways we are communicating broadly. The number of hard copy items, the utilization of the newspaper, the electronic signage, Facebook, Instagram. Point is, there are multiple different communication conduits that the city is utilizing, many of which are to communicate out. One of the key pieces for us as a council, and certainly as a personal desire, is to increase some of the communication flowing in, but at the same time make sure that when we are communicating out, it is highly effective and it reaches all of those that need to be reached. An example of a small change that has been undertaken this year, and it was a council member Braid, I believe it was, his suggestion and recommendation was that for any street project, current or in times past, all residents impacted for that local street project would be brought into the written formal communication, the mailings. And the city council now is receiving those same exact communications for all road projects. Well, what has that done? What that has done for the city council is it alerts us to the time frame and also the full content of what's being communicated, which provides us with a better sense when we have a hearing on a project, and or when we have somebody come in to address us at the forum. That's helped us respond and be understanding more so than in times past. And that's also the aspect of the communication. It is from the city out, from citizens, residents in, but it's also across council and staff. And I've seen changes, and I'm going to say very favorable, positive changes in the 6 months that I've been on council.
Yeah. I remember we had this situation which would raise its ugly head, and most of the time in the most controversial meetings, I was never noticed. Or I was just noticed and I got it last night. And this mailing it to the homes helps aid. It's a heads up for all of us. Oh yeah, this is coming. I should inform myself. And two, I got it.
Well, exactly, Frank. We as a council want to make sure that we are fully representing and we are fully understanding in the perspective of all of our residents, citizens, and knowing what is being communicated and the timing of that communication, to me, has helped us be better attuned, better aware of some of the challenges, especially the statutory timelines on many of these communications that challenge the speed with which we, the council, can make decisions.
Sure.
That there are windows of time that must be allowed for, and understandably so, to ensure that communication makes its way where it needs to occur, so that then there is that opportunity to be heard prior to a decision being made. So those are also some of the learnings that I've had as a member of the council.
Sure. One of the things I've noticed from administration to administration, speaking of the city council now, is oftentimes one city council outgoing will say, "Here guys, this is yours, I'm out of here." And you had a number of those. The new city council did.
Well,
really?
Yeah.
Many of them were street projects.
Right? Yes, thank you, may have another. Understandably so, there were some projects that the former council wanted to entrust to the new council. And so thinking back to our very first council meeting, oh boy, as you're watching this on the TV today, I would encourage you not to look at that meeting on January 9th. And I say that certainly tongue-in-cheek, because there were a number of items that immediately came before the city council that were road projects, 5 road projects to be precise, that came at us, as water through a fire hose. And as challenging as that was, and at times we and I stumbled in both understanding the various issues on the project itself, as well as ensuring that the input into design and the scope of those projects, as well as the understanding around the assessments and the impact that assessing a homeowner has. There are serious impacts of the decisions the council makes on not just the practical use of a road, but also the financial impact on an assessment. So that was a lot of things that came at the council very quickly, times 5, and I would say it served to bring us together as a council, because indeed it was coming fast and furious.
And some of the toughest projects you've faced are really, financially speaking, not to the individual property owner, but let's say total properties affected. They're the smallest. Did that come as a surprise to you at all? I mean, just having the chalkboards clear, right, before you walked in here.
Yeah, there's a learning right there that many of these projects, some of these projects impacted upwards of 60 homes.
Right.
And one of the things, and this is guidance from yourself and others, Frank, that I think is excellent guidance, which is, while the council does not come into neighborhood meetings, let the neighborhood meeting take place with engineering staff. What the council immediately became aware of is different projects brought with it a different level of engagement from the neighbors
and
neighborhood and type.
Sometimes.
And type. And balancing the needs of the neighborhood with the needs, wants, and desires with equity policy across all is something that these 5 road projects, which is where I'll say to the benefit of the council, having all 5, because they all flowed very differently. Size, scope, complexity, neighborhood involvement,
types of approvals,
types of approvals, and then finally financial impact.
Right.
That to see the variety and to see it so early, to me was an amazing experience. At times it was incredibly difficult, because I can tell you an area where city staff and city council are fully aligned is a strong desire to say yes, and address every conceivable item we can. But of course the realities are you can't address all of them, and especially address all of them in the time frame under which you must get a project done. And in the state of Minnesota, doing road work is something that happens, in a very tight window, that there's 2 seasons in Minnesota.
Exactly.
Right? There's winter and there's road construction.
Yep,
so the council getting to these decisions in a timely fashion, essential to ensure that we have functioning infrastructure.
Sure. And this is something that's going to visit you every year from now on, because we have our OCI, our overall condition index of all of our roads. And it's like anyone who maintains things, whether it's your private property or public property, certain things have to be done at certain times, and in our case, to a certain number of miles of this, that, or the other thing. And if it's not done, you can lose track on it before you know it and not catch up.
Oh, exactly.
So it takes a lot of courage on behalf of the council, in my estimation.
Well, and one of the items that as we were running for office, Prairie Lake, wonderful place to live, work, and play for a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
One of the items that was core in the campaign was sustainability of that. And sustainability has a number of aspects to it. Certainly financial sustainability, that creating some predictability relative to tax, property tax, and what the city would ask for. But it also ties to sustainability of our infrastructure. And if you allow things to slip, that is to defer a project to another year, another 2 years, it's clear that what you're going to get at the end of that deferral is a more costly project or a more expensive project. And that's one of the challenges in front of the City Council is, as we look at a piece of capital equipment, a truck, any capital outlay for a truck, a piece of equipment, and or a road, and or a trail. There are consequences to delaying the maintenance and or the replacement of that infrastructure.
And at the same time, there are consequences with respect to taxes or other forms of revenue. And this balancing act that you folks have to go through, it's remarkable.
The balancing act and the trade-offs that can and will be made.
Sure.
And to me, the core that gets back to is the sustainability. Mm-hmm. Let's make sure that we as a council are making these decisions with a balance also in the near term and longer term horizon, that we must look at both of those lenses and not be overly focused on the near term, mm-hmm.
But
to strike that right balance.
You mentioned before that what the council does as a policymaker, affects people, and it affects them in the long term, and it affects the community in the long term. Special assessments are a classic example of that, where they generally spread over 10 years, and it's not a pittance, except maybe for an overlay project, which is $1,200. Most people can. It's still money.
It's $1,200.
That's right. But it's not in the 20s or something like that. How does that impact you guys? I mean, as a council, you're saying, folks, you're going to have to make these repayments over time.
And I'll speak for myself. Right?
Okay, yeah.
Speak for myself versus the council, and certainly every or any project that comes before myself as a council member that is going to have direct financial impact to a resident is going to get my extreme focus. To me, we can talk about equity in what those costs are. We can talk about fair. But at the end of the day, the lens or the process that I walk through is the comfort of knowing when we assess on any project, we hand off to whomever it is that we're assessing, a property owner, the right to appeal that assessment, mm-hmm. and know that the city must demonstrate that the benefit that's being derived directly to that property owner, mm-hmm. will be equal to or exceed the assessment. That's a learning that I've had, mm-hmm. over the past 6 months. So the core of this is, as a council member, knowing that the benefit test shall always be in place when an assessment occurs has been comforting to me. But nonetheless, that is funds, the assessment, that's coming out of a family's checkbook or budget. And those dollars can or could and most likely would go to the family, mm-hmm. be it a vacation, be it savings, whatever it might be. So let's not take those assessments lightly, but I am comforted in knowing that a benefit test must be passed to ensure that when we do assess, it's for the right reasons and that the benefit derived will be equal to or greater than the assessment.
There are challenges that each city council faces. There seem to be eras, and maybe it's cyclical, I don't know. We've got a couple right now. You mentioned one earlier, County Road 21, State Highway 13.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Maybe start with the process. There is more process in this particular inquiry than I think I've seen, maybe than I've ever seen.
Well, yeah, let's focus on this one because I have to tell you, thus far, knock on wood, it's going great. And here's what's going great. The city and the county are working in collaboration, in cooperation. And again, easy for me to say. I would say at an unsurpassed level of collaboration and communication.
I think that's accurate.
What the examples I'm going to use are the 2 joint meetings that we've had thus far and the 3rd meeting that we're going to have. I can't remember a time, nor if I go back in the annals of the city of Prairie Lake, where we had 5 Scott County commissioners and 5 city council members seated at a singular dais twice. Mm-hmm. In regards to a project. So that speaks to the elected participation, mm-hmm. the involvement, the representation from the city and from the county broadly, as well as the level of collaboration that's taking place between city and county staff. We're fortunate to have an excellent consultant with Bolton and Mink that's been brought on by the county, mm-hmm. but the city also has retained separate consulting to ensure that as we make decisions, as we evaluate alternatives relative to the road network, we, the city of Prairie Lake, fully understand the impact those decisions will have on our collateral road network. Mm-hmm. That again, back to above all else, do no harm on our downtown and our collateral road network. So we have put in place a pattern of communication, collaboration, and communication through the first 4 months of this project that has set us on a wonderful foundation. And we will be quickly moving towards having some alternatives to present to the community. As a matter of fact, we're going to have those alternatives shortly after Labor Day. Mm-hmm. There will be alternatives that shall be discussed. And there's been an exhaustive look at historic work that's been done on the corridor, mm-hmm. and there's been extensive work analyzing new means for addressing those from an engineering perspective, mm-hmm. as well as to update expectations on traffic counts, mobility. But as so often it is, Frank, I've shared that this project is going to be 75% communication, 25% engineering. That so long as we ensure that we are extending the awareness to what is occurring, what are the decision points, inflection points, and creating opportunities to be heard and to bring that into the process, I'm confident we're going to see our way through this. Mm-hmm. So we're going to not only see our way through this, and I will venture to say that there will be smiles, that how we see our way through this, to me, is going to create a wonderful opportunity for us in our downtown area to really create a road network that's going to support the vision for who we choose to be, mm-hmm. in 20, 30 years.
In the long term.
In the long term.
Critical. Legacy kind of stuff, really. Doesn't happen real often over time. One of the things that's happening, going back to the communication theme, is we're not saying, hey, come on in, we're all at City Hall waiting for you, but we're doing some pop-up meetings. Can you talk a little bit about those, and what's the theory there?
Right. Well, so what is it? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So
that's scary that both of us know
but again, well, it tells you how, or it's back to the: are you in a rut or are you in a groove?
Right, there you go.
Key to this project, and I would argue key to any future initiative, is extending the reach of whom you are involving in your project. So the pop-up meeting. The pop-up meeting, whether it be at Farmers Market, there's been pop-up meetings. This is on 21 and 13, pop-up meeting there at the Farmers Market. There was a pop-up meeting at Rib Fest.
Right.
There will be a pop-up meeting at Lakefront Days. So the idea of the pop-up meeting is to essentially go out to the residents and the citizens in venues where we know there's going to be a number of folks, so to be opportunistic, and then present information, but more importantly, create another input into the project. So those pop-ups are designed for families to walk up, see visuals, ask a couple of questions of staff, the engineer, others, but more importantly for the engineers to ask questions of those that come. And so indeed those pop-up meetings, along with, and I would strongly encourage anyone who is viewing this to please go to Moving Forward 13 and 21 and take the survey and there's multiple surveys. There's a series of surveys where we're presenting in a virtual pop-up, as it were, an opportunity to be heard and to have input. So yeah, the pop-up meetings are just merely a tactical component of our communication strategy overall, along with the virtual or social media component on this project.
And then you've gone to another step, because we've got the every 3-year community survey, and a number of the questions in that 179 soup to nuts questionnaire talks a little bit about 21 and 13. Again, trying to seek information from all parties and the usuals, but not the usuals as well. Those people who constitute that bigger community, the 26,000.
The 26,000. And really, of course, the constituency exceeds the borders of Prior Lake.
Certainly.
You know, that many use that corridor. But that truly is the point, and thank you, Frank, for reminding me of the survey, because indeed, that phone survey is a key element for the City Council as a guidepost on how we as a city are achieving or exceeding the expectations of the community.
Absolutely.
And we've seen some shifts over time as we look historically at that instrument. So while there are questions in that survey that are relevant to our 1321 downtown decision, there's also some key questions in there that let us know broader quality of life, safety of our community. That please, if you receive a call, I would strongly encourage you to participate in that survey, as it's an important input into the council.
Sure. And August 17th, on your third of 4 town meetings, we'll be talking about that topic.
We're going to be talking about exactly, and we're going to be talking about that right here in City Hall.
Absolutely.
Which, again, back to our moving through different venues, this will be our first town hall right here in City Hall.
And the malice of forethought there is intended. We've got all the electronic equipment in the council chambers. We can put up these various cross tabulations and graphics and that sort of thing, and we can capture them, so they can be replayed again and again and again. That's the theory. We didn't want to get back to home, if you will.
That's the genius in the decision.
Oh, the genius.
Not the malice of forethought.
Perfect. We are coming up on 60 minutes, actually, of discussion. I have a feeling you and I could go a couple hours fairly easily. Cooperation cooperation is big between entities in the Scott County area. We have this critter known as IWIG, Intergovernmental Work Group, and we have this other critter known as SCALE, Scott County Association for Leadership and Efficiency. And you've been active in both. Any first reactions at all on either or both?
To me, collaboration is at the core of everything we do. SCALE, Scott County, to be among, when we look at what we can do collectively as a county, first to learn what are the assets that we have as a county, but also what are the strengths that each of the cities and each of the townships bring. What I've learned from SCALE, and we are pulling a presentation together.
That's right.
To share in front of, to share with townships and city councils some of the benefits of SCALE. But long story made incredibly short in the interest of time, because we are in such tight geographic spaces with our municipalities touching each other, and the county overseeing many of these things, we can share resources. The county has indeed picked up many responsibilities, and I'll use 911 as the most straightforward example. Anytime a 911 call occurs in Scott County, it is the county that picks that up versus each of the individual municipalities having to pick that up. I need not share, hopefully, the efficiencies and the benefits that brings.
Right.
Well, that is but one small aspect of what SCALE has done or can do. And what it is it's all coming together, making decisions, and also cooperating on what are the pressure points, pain points that we have, and that is SCALE. Mm-hmm. Intergovernmental Work Group. Our relationship with the SMSC is the most important local relationship for us, the City of Prior Lake, to continue to work closely with. And the Intergovernmental Work Group provides Shakopee, the county, City of Prior Lake, and the SMSC that opportunity to sit down and talk about and make decisions around multiple projects that are important to those communities. Mm-hmm. And it has been a joy to be part of that, because indeed as the SMSC continues to grow, to prosper, and for Shakopee and Prior Lake to work in close partnership, as well as the county, on many projects, and one that we, the City of Prior Lake, are going to have shortly is a water agreement with the SMSC. But that to me has been wonderful to see, and especially with that focus as a subgroup, as it were, of SCALE.
Yeah, that doesn't happen everywhere. That's been my experience, at least, and it's really unique. I think it's built on the basis that people don't really care what the logo on the side of the vehicle says. If it's competent, fast, and economical service, more power to us.
Exactly.
Collectively.
Exactly.
So we are actually at 60 minutes. Is there anything that we've failed to cover here in the first, probably, of a number of different programs over
certainly,
time?
Again, on any first opportunity, what we're, of course, hopeful for is a follow-up invite back a second time.
Absolutely.
So I'd welcome that opportunity. I can't think of anything you missed. All that I guess I'd like to share is, Frank, I'm having a ton of fun.
That's good.
I'm having a ton of fun.
Doesn't feel like that every day.
People ask, what is it? Is it easiest, hardest? I can just tell you that it's been a joy to wake up not knowing necessarily what will be ahead of us, but knowing at the end of the day, all in Prior Lake, be it resident, citizen, staff, it's all been incredibly positive, and to me, I can't think of a better thing for me to be doing than having the opportunity of serving as the mayor of Prior Lake. So thanks so much to all that have given me that opportunity, and look forward to seeing you out there around town and around the city.
Sure. Kirt, if there are ways, the best way people can reach you, would you rather have them use your email or?
My cell phone number is on my cards.
Okay.
It is 612-889-2250. Okay. My email is there as well. For me, it's about accessibility, and however, and my Facebook page or the city Facebook page. So whatever is easiest, please. I want to be accessible, and I look forward to that communication.
Great. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Frank.
Appreciate it. First of many. Thank you for being with us as well as we bring this program information to you as residents of the Prior Lake area. Until next time, I'm Frank Boyles saying, have a great day.